Call to order the meeting for Wednesday, February 26th. This is the BZA meeting. If we would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll give a brief explanation of how this process is going to work. The sequence will be as follows. First, we're going to have the presentation from the staff on the appeal that's going to be presented tonight. Then there'll be some testifying from the applicant, and then anyone that's in favor or against will hear that. Then we'll close the public portion, and then from there we'll potentially call you back up and ask you some questions from the board, and then we'll make a decision on how to proceed. I don't see anything getting out of hand and out of control tonight, so I don't need to say it. Keep things cool. So that's how that's going to go. So we need to do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartelt.
Here.
Mr. Hill.
Present.
Mr. Reiniger.
Present.
Mr. Shupp.
Present.
Mr. Roberto.
Here. Okay. Got on my docket. I got to get my notes up over here. We've changed our system to where we're doing things digitally now, and so let me get my schedule up. So we've got some swearing in. So anyone that's going to speak this evening, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth before the Board of Zoning Appeals? Say I do. I do. Thank you very much. You may be seated. The next case, which is the only case, let me pull my notes over here. It keeps pulling in over my other one. Is BZA 2020-05. It's a request for an expansion of a non-conforming use and variance. The location of the property is at 7206 Harrison Avenue. Owner applicant is Damo. Saying it correctly, Damo LLC. Is there a presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is.
Thank you.
Tonight, the applicant is requesting an expansion of a non-conforming use to build a new addition with a porch enclosure for their current business, as well as 5 variances. The property is located at 7206 Harrison Avenue. Here's a simple aerial of the property. It is located in the Harrison character area portion on the westernmost side of the township. Many residents forget that the Harrison area is located within Colerain Township, and it's located just north of the 275-74 interchange right there. Here's another simple area of the property. The property in question is approximately 0.583 acres, so just a little over half an acre. And it is home to Obert's Auto Care and Towing. This structure and business has been around since 1951, and it's located at the intersection of Harrison Avenue and Forfeit Run. And right across the street is a creek. The property itself is zoned RF for Riverfront District, as well as eastern northeast portion of the property zoned as B2 General Business. This current zoning was adopted in 2006 when I was in 6th grade, and it became a legal non-conforming use. So this use and structure is grandfathered in as of almost 15 years ago. And you can notice that R3 Residential is located to the east as well. Here's a picture of the auto shop facing north, and Harrison Avenue is located on to the left side of the picture. Here is a photo facing south. Here is facing east. This structure right here is a picture of the existing porch. This is the second enclosure that the applicant is requesting tonight. And you can notice a close proximity to Harrison Avenue right in the front of the picture. And then just a few more photos. This is facing west. The current structure is a 2,166 square foot structure, and it's been around for the past 70 years as an auto body shop. Here are elevation drawings for the proposed additions. To the left-hand side, we have the service bay auto body addition, which is located on the northern portion of the site. And then right here in front, we have the porch enclosure. So this is facing west right here. The addition, the northernmost addition, is 54 by 30, which is 1,620 square feet. And they will be including 2 service bays to help promote the demand and need for their business and to help work on cars in this structure. And then the porch is right here is 20 by 15, so 305 square feet. And they are going to use that as their offices and a bathroom, which is very essential. Here are just the other sides of the proposed structure. You can notice it's appropriate siding and stone a couple feet out from the bottom. So it's an aesthetically pleasing addition to this business. The applicant is requesting 1,925 square feet of additional structure to the building, which is, the existing building is approximately 2,100 square feet. And here is a floor plan of the structure. Here's the service bays, and then the office, and you can see the bathroom right there in the lower portion. Here's an image of the site plan, and I will zoom in right now. Just a few things that I want to take note. Additionally, with this application, you can see the 2 additions highlighted in red. One of the first things is the applicant is proposing to repave the parking lot of this site and designate 14 parking spaces to include more organized, mannerly parking on the site, and that meets code. One thing staff is mentioning as a condition is the 5 parking spots located along Harrison Road. We condition that the entrance to those parking spots can only be accessed off a forfeit road. So that way we don't have cars backing up along Harrison Road. And then one other item is just a proposed landscape buffer to the north of the property, just a few trees and shrubs, since an RF property that abuts a B2 property does not need any landscape buffer. So staff is just also conditioning just to add a few more landscape items to make this site a little more aesthetically pleasing as well. And then just to note that signage will be permitted separately. Applicant will be installing a new ground sign, and we have also made sure that they will plant the appropriate landscaping with that ground sign when they come get that permit separately. Here's an overview of the 5 requests tonight here before you. The first one is for a request of the expansion of a non-conforming use. You fine gentlemen have the power to extend a legal non-conforming use to a building or lot. Normally, an applicant would just ask for an expansion of this use. However, since this 1,925 square foot request is 50% larger than what is allowed, or let me word that differently, sorry. Normally, you're only allowed to grant expansions that are 50% of the total floor area of the existing building. The applicant tonight is requesting 89%. So that's 39% over what is allowed. So the applicant needs a variance right off the bat for 39% overage. So that is one variance by itself. And that was from section 11.8.2. Second request comes from section 11.8.3. The non-conforming use shall be required to meet the setbacks of a zoning district where the use is otherwise permitted. So according to the site development standards for an RF property, it correlates with zoning and setback requirement of an R2 estate residential district. And that's section 9.2.4. So the front or the setback requirements for an R2 district are 50 feet in the front, and then this property does have sewer. So the side yard setback for a property is 15 feet, and the rear yard requirement is 35 feet. The current application does not meet the front and rear yard setback. And I just want to note that the plan says the side yard setback for this northernmost addition is 14.6 feet. According to section 12.1.3, percentages and fractions, they are technically allowed to round up to the nearest whole number, so that meets the 15-foot requirement. So they don't need a variance for the side yard setbacks. And then just the last three variances. The first, the front yard setback for the proposed addition, the applicant, here it is, along Harrison Avenue. They're currently 24.9 feet away from the front property line along Harrison Avenue, and the setback requirement is 50 feet. The applicant is simply requesting a variance for the 25.1 foot shortage in that setback. Secondly, the front yard setback for the porch enclosure. The current porch enclosure, which they're enclosing to make their office, is 3.15 feet away from the property line along Harrison Avenue. So the applicant is requesting a variance for the 46.85 foot shortage. And then the last variance is for the rear yard setback of the northernmost addition, and that is 9.3 feet away from the rear yard property line. The setback requirement for a rear yard property in this zone is 35 feet. So the applicant is requesting variance for the 25.7 foot shortage. All right, with all that being said, the granting of expansion of the non-conforming use and variances would not have a more adverse impact on the surrounding neighborhood. This property has been around for almost 70 years. The addition and proposal for this structure is similar in character of that to the business, and they are using it to meet the demand and expansion of this business. The applicant is trying to improve their business by adding landscaping, making the building more aesthetically pleasing, and organizing their parking lot to make it easier accessibility and not as compact. Two, granting of submitted request places a considerable hardship on the applicant due to the majority of the site being located in an RF zone. Normally, RF zones focus more on preserving green space, open space, due to most of it being located in the floodplain. So this is a considerable hardship on this property since 2006. Three, the front and rear yard setbacks are substantial. However, the eastern portion of this property abuts a B2 property, thus not having to install a landscape buffer. Also, the front porch extension enclosure has been existing with the building since the building's been here, and the applicant is trying to utilize existing space to the purpose of just enclosing it. And also, Harrison Avenue is an extremely wide commercial corridor, and that also creates certain hardships for this business. Four, the property in question would not yield a reasonable return without the variances. Five, the approval of the expansion of the request would not affect delivery of governmental services. And then lastly, Approval of submitted requests would not adversely impact the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and broader community. Staff finds that substantial justice would be done by allowing the expansion of the non-conforming use and approval of 5 variances. Staff's recommendation is approval of the expansion of non-conforming use and variances subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant adhere to rules and regulations for the disposal of auto-oriented materials to protect natural resources and areas and prevent groundwater contamination. 2, that the constructed improvements meet all applicable requirements pertaining to building and erecting structures located within a floodplain area. 3, that the applicant provides a landscape buffer to the north border of the property with approximately 3 trees and 6 shrubs. 4, landscaping be provided in the front of the building enclosure adjacent to Harrison Avenue. Landscaping shall be shown on permit and not interfere with any site distance requirements. 5, the landscaping be provided in an area where the freestanding sign is located, so just to make sure landscaping is provided when the applicant comes to get that separately permitted sign permit. 6, that the 5 parking spaces against Harrison Avenue on the western side of the property be accessed internally from the site and not from Harrison Avenue. 7, that all new improvements, including the location of off-street parking facilities on the site, be constructed or located in a manner that does not impede with the site triangle of vehicular traffic moving throughout the area. And then lastly, all vehicles on the site be parked in orderly and maintained fashion. At no time should a vehicle be parked outside a striped parking space identified within the submitted development plan for a period to exceed 24 hours. And with that, I know that was a lot to take in, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you gentlemen might have.
Does anyone have a question for staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just curious, that document we received in the email about the easement, does that in any way change anything that you've just described?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't bring that up. So that, we had an adjacent property owner email me, and I forwarded it to you guys. Sorry, I didn't bring that up. That easement does not fall within the proposed structure. However, the proposed simple landscape buffering may be affected, but if they were to access that easement, you would just have to tear down the shrub and tree that are being proposed. But it won't affect the building.
Or setbacks or anything?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
The 5 parking spaces that you don't want to be accessed from Harrison Avenue, how would they accomplish that?
So it's just reversing. So right now they're shown to, you can enter off Harrison Avenue. What are those called? That the wheel stops are located right here along the north. So we're just reversing that. So the wheel stops are along Harrison Avenue. So you can enter in off the entrance off Forfeit, zoom in or park, and then you can reverse out and exit off Forfeit Run as well.
Essentially creating a curb along Harrison Avenue.
Correct. So that way it's safer because if you back out of Harrison Avenue, you'd be there for a little bit. So staff just thought it was appropriate to include that as a condition.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I see none. You have, Tom?
One question for staff. Is there a current entrance off Forfeit Run now? Is there?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Does the applicant have a presentation? Please come give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Scott Huber. I'm the site civil engineer with Abercrombie & Associates. My address is 8111 Cheviot Road, 45247. Thank you for hearing this case tonight. With me tonight is the applicant, Mr. Andy Obert, and also the builder or the contractor, Mr. Rick Davis. So they'll be available for questions if you have questions about the business or if you have questions about the construction of the building. The three of us, we've read the staff report We're in agreement with the presentation by staff. We're in agreement with the for the information contained in the staff report. I do want to kind of talk about a little bit of this graphic that we have up here on the screen, just to kind of clarify some points. Regarding the tan area where the parking stalls are, we agree with staff that those need to be flipped and that the access needs to come in off of 4-foot run road. And to kind of give you a little bit more comfort level on how that's going to be controlled, the county engineer is currently doing road improvements on Harrison Avenue right in front of this building. And they are proposing to put curb along Harrison Avenue. So the conversations that the applicant has had with the county engineer, they're going to put curb in front of those parking spaces anyway, so we're not going to be able to use them the way we're proposing here. So in light of all of that, we're going to be forced to flip those parking spaces and access off of 4-foot run because the county engineer is forcing our hand with that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit better feel of, you know, how that's going to be controlled and how it's going to be how it'll be done. Regarding the green area, which is the landscape area along the north property line, that is a true statement there that there is an easement, an access easement on that line. It's 20 feet wide. It's centered on the property line, so it's the easement is 10 foot on each side of the property line, so it's 10 feet onto us. I haven't seen the email that you're talking about, but you know, that landscape area may be a little bit problematic.
It will be.
I don't know if the board is in agreement, if we could agree to I think the plantings were three trees and 6 shrubs. If the board would be in agreement, if we could shift that down to the corner on 4-foot run and Harrison Avenue and put those plantings there. Because it seems like it's going to be a little bit problematic with the easement if we're going to, you know, take up some of that area with plantings. The building is not in it, like staff reported. We're basically 15 feet off the property line, and that easement is 10 feet off. So that's probably the only, I guess, little comment. If we want to have a discussion about it, we can, but just be conscious of that. But as far as the other landscaping and site triangle requirements, parking space requirements and things like that, we're in agreement with those and don't have any comment at this time. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, the 3 of us are available. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking in favor of the appeal? Anyone speaking against? See none? We have a motion to close the public portion, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and second have been made. Please roll call vote.
Mr. Hill, you motion that first.
Yes.
And
Mr. Barton.
thank you. Mr. Bartolt,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Shupp,
Aye.
Mr. Reiniger,
Aye.
Mr. Roberto.
Aye. Okay, we'll start with to my right. Mr. Hill, would you like to ask any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Bartle?
Well, getting back to the easement, I guess I would hope to see the landscaping stay there. Obviously, they could be there for decades without having to be ripped up due to us. I don't know if the easement's there for a sewer or what, but, or just access. But,
I was made aware of the easement Monday
Yeah.
morning, so.
I think it does state it in the deed what it's utilized for. I'll read it while you look, discuss.
but moving the landscaping down to 4-foot run, I think would just create some site problems for traffic getting in and out. And then well, if you want to come back up. So you said there will be a curb on Harrison Avenue, but then at the new addition, there's some new garage doors, so there'll be a curb cut at the new addition, right?
Right. What the inspector has told Mr. Obert, and Mr. Obert's related to me, I'm gonna, if I say something wrong, I'll jump in here. But the county has told him that for commercial properties, they allow 50-foot wide curb cuts. So what the inspector is telling Mr. Obert is that he'll give him a 50-foot curb cut on the south side of the building, and he'll give him a 50-foot curb cut on the north side of the building. So that's what, and again, I haven't seen any plans. I don't know that even Mr. Obert has seen any plans, but that's the conversation that he has had with the inspector.
Okay, all right.
We're anticipating 2 curb cuts, one on the south side, one on the north side. So it shouldn't conflict with our
Yeah.
garage doors, our entrances.
Okay. Just general comment, I mean, of the 5 variances, 4 of them are sizable, which in a typical situation would be something not to vote in favor of, but on the flip side, you know, we're trying to promote business and grow the business. So there's kind of a on the fence kind of mentality I'm having there, especially when I see what the present site looks like. It's crammed full of probably vehicles you're working on. There's storage pods. There's probably vehicles that don't run. I don't know. You can tell us if you want. I just don't know how that's going to... We've given variances to projects in the past where conditions have been agreed upon and then they don't happen. So I'm curious how you are going to prove or guarantee that everything that staff mentioned as a conditional condition is going to be met and adhered to.
If you could come to the, sir, if you come to the podium and address, because it's just
Well,
recorded.
that might be, but I was just there 2 days ago and it still looks
And you
pretty
need to
bad.
give your, yeah, you need to give your name and address too,
Andy
please.
Obert, 7206 Harrison Avenue.
Thank you very much.
The problem is that we moved, believe it or not, we had 60 cars on that lot. Counted them the other day. I've been working on this for weeks when I knew I was gonna come up here and talk to you guys. We're down, if you go by there on a weekend, there's not a car in front of my shop. I don't know if you went by there on a weekend, there's not a car. The last 2 weekends, people have been like, you going out of business? What's going on? No, we got cars coming in just like any other business, that's coming in. We work on them and we're getting them out of there. We're doing a better job that we probably last weekend, I got about 7 dead cars that are still don't leave our lot. The rest of them are working on. We are working on them. That's coming in every week. I mean, there's, sometimes we get 40, 50 cars coming through our shop a week. But my idea is to have the front of the lot cleaned up every weekend. I want to fence it in. I want to make it look nice. I don't,
Yeah.
but we got rid of a bunch of cars. A bunch of cars went by. Yeah, you might have, the problem is that we don't have parking spots. I have people that, and I'm not with these curbs and stuff, I think it's gonna help because I got people that pull in off of Harrison Avenue and pull 2 feet off the road. If there's a curb or a berm, I was just telling them guys, I was against them until I thought about this, that they can pull into a parking spot. They're not gonna just pull off the street because they'll have these entrances and exits to come in. I mean,
Right.
So I think that with that stuff, the county's gonna put, no matter what, he's gonna put these up, no matter what I say or do. He said, I'll work with you a little bit, but,
Right.
He's saying that's the way it is. But, we're trying to get rid of as many cars as we can. Like I said, everything on our lot, we are working on, and there's about 7 more that we're gonna get rid of. And then it'll just be the stuff flowing in every week. I'm not keeping dead cars. It costs us more time moving around cars. It looks like shit. I want it to look better, so I mean.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22, so you're expanding to increase your business, and yet you're going to have even
I'm not
less.
expanding to increase my business.
Well, it seems like you
I don't
are.
want no more
But,
employees. I want to be more efficient.
yeah,
So I don't.
but you're
I'm
going to
not
have
saying that-
you're going to have less asphalt areas.
Um,
You're going to have these 14 parking spaces in the back. If you adhere to his or the staff's conditions, you've got to park cars in striped areas.
Yeah.
So that was what, 14 spaces in the back? And I don't know if there's going to be allowed any in the front, but,
There'll be some. Yeah.
There'll be at least 5 in the front.
huh?
There'll be 5 spaces in the front.
Well, those are part of there's a total of 14, I believe, altogether. Isn't it? And there's going to be a curb on Harrison Avenue, so you can't park in the front.
But those 5 in front are part of the 14
Yeah,
number.
so there's 14 spaces to park 40 or 50 cars a week that he's getting.
Well, that's through the whole week.
Well, I know,
you
it
if
is.
it's-
I'm
as
just
long as
saying,
it goes,
I'm just
I mean,
saying,
Yeah,
I agree with,
We all know
I
what
hear what
body
he's
shop-
saying, and what, basically, he just wants the lot cleaned up. We have a few of these automobile
Oh, I know.
dealerships that
Yeah.
kind of give us a bad eye, and it sounds to me like you're trying to move in that right direction.
I rented an awful lot to put some stuff in there. I mean, people come in there and they don't have the money to pay a motor. They don't care about the car sitting in your lot.
yeah,
You know, they just let it sit there, or they own it, and then the motor's bad, or they don't have the money. It doesn't hurt them to have it sit there.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, so that's just how all these cars end up in these places, because
I understand.
you know
And
they
then you
don't
try
have
to
the
get,
money to afford it, and they just let it sit there.
then you try to get a title to it to get, and it's hard to do. I
Good luck
understand
getting
it.
the title, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, all I can do is say we're gonna clean it up. I mean, and we're working on it. It's just, it takes time. I can't, you know, we were gonna move out of Colerain Township. My dad said, this is move, we're into all this stuff. I said, my dad's getting ready to retire. He's, you know, sitting out there. I said, Dad, I don't wanna go $1 million in debt building a garage, moving somewhere else and have to do it and have to make that money back. And I don't want 10 guys working for me. I just want a small shop. And I said, you know, so we came out, we do a lot of stuff outside, and I said, you know, it's time to work inside, you know, during the winter and stuff. So I thought if we could put a shop up, and I talked about this back in, was it 2015? Yeah, so, and then, you know, we came into floodplain, all this, and that's when we decided, hey, we're gonna move. Well, we just, every year you just sit there and go through all the motions and don't do it. And now I'm like, I'm not getting no younger, and I wanna do it, you know, so. But it definitely is you know, in my eye, that I say that we spend a lot of time moving cars around and wasted time of dead cars. If they're not on our lot and we get rid of them, that's just time, more money I'm gonna make in time, I'm gonna get stuff done. So, I mean, the back of my mind is we're gonna be, you know, getting more cars in and out faster because we're not messing around, so. But, any other questions?
So I guess there's a chain link fence. That's the property line, correct?
Well,
Or is it close?
pretty close to it, yes.
Yeah. Is that slated to be redone or rebuilt? Or?
Yeah, I talked to him about putting a wall up behind there and redoing it. That's not my fence line. You know, I actually cleaned it up the other day, but there's weeds growing all up it, but, you know, it's not my fence line, but.
You mean you don't own the fence?
We do not have.
Okay.
And it's falling down and it looks bad, yes. I did talk to him about redoing it and said I would pay for it to redo it, and, you know, so we're gonna go from there, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nothing else.
Mr. Reiniger?
Mr. Obert, if you'd come back up, please. I like the plans and the approach you've got, and my concern was the enclosure of the porch, the front porch. It's not that it's going to be enclosed, it is that it's going to be inhabited as an office. Is there a safety concern because of the flow of traffic on Harrison Avenue that somebody's going to run into the porch? And if it was just a porch with nobody there, that's not a big deal. But if it's a porch with an office and somebody sitting in it, are you going to need bollards or something to keep somebody from driving through?
Well, I definitely think it'll be a concrete, you know, some kind of structure of concrete,
Yeah.
at least 4 foot high. I mean, when you think, Rick, something?
I mean, I was just concerned if somebody.
I mean, there used to be gas pumps out there
Yeah.
back in '92. I mean, so I mean, definitely, you know, we definitely would try to protect that, you know, and some kind of foundation 4 foot high, I would think, that we're gonna build.
It was
Yeah.
just a concern, that's all. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have any issue with the conversion for use, it's just for the safety issue.
Yeah, okay.
I guess as far as we know, there's no county stipulations that a building has to be farther away than that, do we? I mean,
It's grandfathered into the
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
that it's in.
Okay, thank you.
It's the fact that we're enclosing it now as it's changing. It's. Mr. Shupp, you have any questions?
I had one question in regards to the special modifications that have to be done because it's in the floodplain, but that probably is not relevant at this point.
It cannot inhibit water flow. It's essentially, it needs to be breakaway panels. Is that what you have in there?
Yeah, that's
For the,
breakaway panels for the water flow.
Rick Davis, 5346 Race Road.
yes, sir.
I'm going to be the builder. What we've done is we come circled back around. We started with flood panels on the design, and we've lessened the cost of the thing by just doing a vented, what we call a vented system.
Okay.
So a lot of the structure, a lot of his tools and so forth will be set at the 100-year flood. The permanent stuff inside, the compressors and stuff will be maintained at 100-year flood. The building will be allowed to be flooded. It's not going to affect
It's going to be concrete, essentially.
correct. It will, you know, it's not going to affect the floodplain, deviate to anybody downstream or upstream as far as storage of water or anything. If you don't mind, while I'm here, I want to comment from, we have gotten together, Scott and I, as far as some of your concerns, as far as the look, what we've designed in. The fence in the back, as far as cleaning up, and Andy's concerns, that picture in the back, and the green belt that we talked about to the north, and one of Scott's concerns as far as maybe moving and opting some of the landscape and juggling in that easement. Andy shares a right-of-way with Lambert. You saw the one picture with Lambert's sign in it. Lambert's to the north. And that easement, there is a gravel road between Andy and Lambert. And that road also accesses a field up in behind Andy.
Right.
And we believe that fence is a field. The corner where we're asking for the variance to the building is very close. You mind if I walk up to that picture? I don't know. That corner is very close right here, guys. Is right up in here. Up in here, so it's, that corner of that building's up, yeah, up in here. And so Andy's wanting to, he's talking to them to get that cleaned up. He's wanting to terrace this and change this and make this weeded area, this slanted area. He's wanting to terrace that in there and kind of terrace that in and make that all clean and depict that fence line. There was another picture then where the camera was back showing the fence line, where he could terrace that and clean that fence line up and make that more usable space. And then the parking stalls that Andy is, Scott, or well, the architect is designed in, will become more usable. I think with the lines, Andy will be more governed to park not at will. Right now in Andy's business, I kept wanting him to say it, but people just come in and park at will. He kind of got that out, but people, Scott and I are down there and we come in there and just people come in and park at will. So with the added asphalt, with the actual stripes on the ground, people will be able to come in and park, and then Andy will be able to shuffle cars at a defined, definitive organization. It's up to Andy as he shuffles cars and works on them. He'll generate a rotation process, how he gets them in and out of forfeit run and so forth. He does have an off lot now. I've been on him to get these in and out of the off lot. If he's got dead soldiers, we call them, get them out of there. And it's up to him. If they don't pay, he works on them or whatever, they're dead, he's got to get them out of there. It's simple as that. The building is being built because he's got some employees who are saying, hey, I'm not going through another winter. I got to have some heat, or whatever, air conditioning. So that's what it's all about. Cleaner environment for his employees, nicer workspace, and an organization. That's what we're trying to do for him. Thank you.
Any more questions for? Okay. Mr. Hill?
Typically, your fire department does annual inspections on businesses, correct? Or they should, I guess.
I know they inspect it after development is like new development. I know that.
Typically, they would get a one-year rotation they round to the building.
Correct. So my question is, has the fire department weighed in on this site, considering the fact that when you look at the pictures, there's no 360 access in case of a fire. I'm just curious whether or not they've looked at the plan and made sure that there's going to be enough fire lanes and things like that that'll be maintained so that we don't have the situation that we have currently.
Pertaining to this proposal, they have not seen it that I'm aware of. They have not.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I was just going to say, based on my experience, when we submit drawings to the building department, that's when a lot of times fire departments chime in. So it might come up during their future process.
Yeah, and there's 360 access, it's just not on his property. You can get to it from the back, somebody else's property, which is a driveway. But that's,
Typically required on the site.
yeah, on your own site, yeah. Just for clarification, the easement was put in place for access to a field, which was already clarified. There's also apparently a septic runoff that runs through there. So I don't know if they've since terminated that as far as when they did sewers through there. That may have been resolved, but that's what originally the easement was for. One of my concerns too was when you do the overhead shot and you see all those, just look like somebody took a shotgun of cars. You know, and the more we can kind of clean that up, I think your plans look awesome. I think it's going to help improve the images to the area. Now we just got to, everybody else has got to catch up with you. But all these cars that are way on there, it definitely is, it has to be addressed. And I get the dead soldiers. We've got another property owner that has the same scenario, that they're having to sneak cars off to Kentucky to get them gone because they just can't find a title to them or whatever the scenario may be. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. I would recommend you get with the police as far as that sort of thing. Have them put them in their impound lot and let them go ahead and deal with having to store it and chase after the person, and then they're off your property. The concern I had, I would agree with Mr. Reininger. I would hope that you have some sort of safety there for being that close. It says 3.5 feet, but you're probably 10 or 15 feet off from the road. Yeah. So it's not as dangerous as it sounds, because we're talking about property line versus and easements versus. But that would be my concern too, is just somebody coming flying up through there, because it's kind of going around the bend. I think it's a great plan. There's a lot of things to consider. A lot of things that our group is going to have to overcome, because it's a big bite, as far as all these variances. That's all I got to say. Anybody else have anything else? We have a motion.
I'll move that we approve the request for an expansion of a non-conforming use and variances as presented by staff, and that also includes the presence of a landscape buffer in that easement area.
Okay. Seconded? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion? One thing I did note, and I know that Hamilton County's for this, and I don't know how much we as zoning have authority of this, but you have 2 parcels there. If you can merge the 2 parcels into one parcel, that would help Hamilton County and probably us as well. That I would like to include that in as part of the language, if the board is in agreement with that. You consolidate the parcels into one parcel.
Is that outside the scope of what we?
I don't know. It's in zoning and it's in our land. I don't know if it is or not, but I would just like for them to do it. And if that shouldn't be an issue.
Are you saying that should be a part of the condition of approval?
He's saying he's okay with it, so why not?
Unless there's some hangup that we don't know about that forces it to not happen, and then he's stuck having to come back here.
What would be the reason why you couldn't consolidate the parcel? He owns both lands.
Yeah, I don't know. Just worst case scenario.
Maybe Scott could address that.
What was the question?
Just whether or not there's going to be an issue with consolidating the parcel. I don't see it. You own both parcels. There's no reason why they couldn't be the
I
same.
don't see why it would be a problem. I don't think we'd have a problem if that was a condition. It seems feasible and reasonable.
Okay. I would like to put that as a condition, please. Anybody else?
You amend your-
With the
I'll agree to the amendment to the motion.
And Mr.
I'll
Shepherd,
second it.
that? So we were going to add that condition as well. All right, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartold,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Shup,
Aye.
Mr. Reiniger,
Aye.
Mr. Roberto.
Aye. Congratulations, guys. We're looking forward to great things. We're hoping you clean up the site, and we hope you get so much business that you buy the next property and you clean it up too. All right. So we will move on to the next. We have no unfinished business. We have approval of the minutes. Yes, thank you. We have approval.
I'll
of the
make a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion's been made, second?
Second.
Second has been made. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bartold,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Shup,
Aye.
Mr. Reiniger,
Aye.
Mr. Roberto.
Yes. Next meeting is September the 23rd. We have one thing on our docket, correct?
Yes, sir. One case.
I see no administrative matters.
No, sir.
We are adjourned.